Oh yeah, they call me double clue. 'Cause I don't go outside for nothing. No one's gonna make me leave this room.
Hello there everyone and welcome, it is Niran here, and today it is time for me to bring you the second episode of the Xbox AOR Talkshow for Season 12 of the Apex Online Racing League. Today, obviously, last time you guys saw us talk about the driver lineups and then obviously preview the Australian Grand Prix. On the Sunday, we obviously had the Australian Grand Prix, so we're going to be talking about that Grand Prix and then also looking forward to the second race of the season in Bahrain. But yeah, obviously you guys smashing the support on the first episode of the talk show, like it's a bit ridiculous really on all the platforms, to be honest with you, on the Xbox side, the PlayStation side, and on the PC side as well. As always, if you want to check out the PlayStation and PC side, they'll be on Pepper's channel, as well as this video, if you really want to watch it 2 times in a row, if you really enjoyed it that much. But as I was last week, I'm being joined by 2 very special guests. I'm joined by James.
Hello everyone.
And I'm joined by Chris.
Hey guys.
If you're really in tune with the talk show, you might know that that we've got another sort of guest, another guy who's involved in the talk show, and that's TRL Limitless, or just JD as you might know him, who's been uploading the talk show on the Xbox side on his channel, and we're also potentially going to be having him involved in talk shows when it comes to actual commentary as well pretty soon as well. If you're watching on Limitless's channel, then hello. Thank you all for the support on the talk show, just generally speaking, and we'll probably keep it to a squad of 3, so we'll just sort of rotate who's actually in the talk show, but I'm sure JD will be involved, and he'll be involved in commentaries from next week onwards. Nevertheless, we need to talk about the Australian Grand Prix, the season opener, and it was. I mean, before we get into properly reviewing it, it was a pretty good race, wasn't it?
It really was. It was way better than I actually expected it. I was a little bit concerned, to be honest, when the season started, but that race, especially up the front, was very, very interesting. Lots of good battling, and I think, some minor some minor incidents, but I mean, that's always going to happen, really. But overall, I'm very, very happy how that race went in general.
Yeah. I mean, you said, the battles at the front were great, and they were. The battles at the front were so good. All the way through the race, it was really nice to see, 4 or 5 people battling for a win. That is real, at least podium places. It was really, really cool to see. We did have some incidents, as you said, but I think, to be honest with you, a lot of people are getting used to having such a large grid, and you're always, especially in the wets, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but lap 1, the first few corners are always going to be a little bit difficult. We always have incidents in AOR anyway, and it's not like everyone can be clean every single race, but it was certainly a very, very good race. Okay, so we've alluded to the race, but obviously we should probably start off with qualifying realistically and what happens on a Saturday, even though it's not actually technically Saturday. We'll gloss over that anyway. What happened in qualifying? We knew that a lot of drivers were going to be challenging for pole. We had a lot of different drivers who we knew were going to show a lot of pace. And one of the drivers that we talked about in the driver lineup was Dizzy Cupid of Red Bull, and it was actually him that grabbed pole by 2/10 and 3/4 over TheFlyingFinn in the Williams. Now we talked about TheFlyingFinn as well as a rookie technically to the series, but we knew that he was going to be quite pacey, or I didn't know that he was going to be quite pacey. It was actually Chris that alerted us to the fact that he was going to be extremely pacey, and he managed to take second on the grid, and it was a really close qualifying session, wasn't it, overall?
Yeah, it certainly was. Definitely between P2 and P2, 4 and 5 and 6. So there were some minor groups forming in that qualifying session, to be honest. I think we had, of course, closer qualifyings overall in AOR history, but I think overall, I think you can definitely say it was a rather close qualifying session. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the big closeness, if that's even a phrase, I guess was, as you said, 2 to 4, but specifically 3rd and 4th. We had TheFlyingFinn in 2nd place, 2/10 off Dizzy Cupid, but of course Seiyariu was 3/10 off, and TRL Martin was 3/10 off as well. 1,000th of a second separating 3rd and 4th. Being Seiyariu and TRL Martin. We had Raiko Gordon in 5th for McLaren. Strees in the 2nd of the Red Bulls was in P6. We had to wait until 8th position for Limitless, so not a great qualifying for him. 6.5 tenths off Dizzy, who took the pole position. And then we had the Force Indias of Wycoms and Stu rounding out the top 10, with Lucky Dog and Leo Bot in 11th and 12th. To be honest with you, it was a fairly close grid all the way down, there was only, 0.2 of a second separating 10th to 15th. The whole top 15 were covered by only 1.2 seconds. So that was pretty nice to see. The only person who didn't set a lap time was actually TRL Rosberg, in the Ferrari, so he would start from the back of the grid. We had a dry qualifying, I do believe, but it wasn't so dry for the race, was it? Realistically,
no, it wasn't.
It definitely wasn't.
I think also a couple of drivers made some minor setup changes to get into the dry race, to get into the wet race. Sorry, but I think that wasn't too common. I personally did a wing change, but I think that was not that common among the drivers because we actually thought it would dry out a little bit quicker than it actually did.
Yeah, it was one of them changeable races, one of them where the dynamic rate, like weather system definitely come into play. We started in full wet conditions, so obviously for those that don't know, you can't change your whole setup. Parc Fermé regulations come into play. You can only change your front wing. So obviously a few drivers, as Chris said, will have maybe altered or tweaked the front wing or whatever to make sure it's a little bit more accustomed for wet conditions. But if it's going to dry out by the end, then maybe that's not too, it's not necessary perhaps. But yeah, we had changeable conditions. We had wets at the start, intermediates, and then dries. We'll get on to when all those changes happened. But we haven't heard much from James. James, it was a pretty interesting first lap, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. The start of the grid got away quite well, but I believe there was an incident at the back between Andre and a couple of people, which basically knocked him out of the race because I believe he lost his front wing or at least damaged it. So he was unable to fight back from that and later retired. But at the front of the grid, there was already a battle forming for the lead between Dizzy Cupid and TheFlyingFinn, with Seiyariu, Martin and Limitless not far behind.
Yeah. I mean, the incidents that you alluded to were kind of rife, I guess, throughout the start of the race. I think TRL Rosberg was involved in an incident on the first lap, I'm fairly sure. I think there was a little bit of a collision on the straight before it's sort of a straight, it's more of a curve really, before the fast chicane. Stu in the Force India had a bit of a spin. I think he had contact with Lucky Dog in the Haas. And then Lucky Dog himself had a spin in the Haas as well, right at the end of the lap. So there were a few collisions, but overall at the front it was very clean and there were some really good battles, as James mentioned. We also had a big crash, I think, right at the start of lap 2, I think, between Burnout and Andre in a Toro Rosso, and yeah, that's what James was talking about, losing his front wing, and that was a pretty solidly big accident as well. Obviously, when we've got such a big grid, it's always going to be quite difficult for everyone to make it unscathed through the first few laps. There were front wings getting damaged quite a bit. I think 3 people lost their front wings in the first 2 laps. But that's the sort of stuff you tend to see in real life, and especially in wet conditions, it's always going to be difficult. But we talked about the battle at the front, and it was really spicing up even from the get-go, wasn't it, Chris?
It really was. I mean, Dizzy Cupid actually defended quite well for the first 5, 6, 7 laps, I think, from TheFlyingFinn. He didn't have a chance to go through, and then once he did that move before we went onto Inters, it was a very, very crucial move in my opinion. Also coming into this pit stop phase, but behind, and then that was basically when that overtook was done. Dizzy Cupid was immediately under pressure from the guys behind. So the top 5 couldn't be separated in the first stint really, and after that I think there was quite not that quite of a gap, because I was the car behind after I overtook RS Falcon on lap 4, and the gap was quite consistent, I think from 3 to 5 seconds or something like that. But really the top 5 were all in a shout for a win after the first couple of laps, and that really didn't change through the entirety of the race.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, they were always going to be the top 5 for the whole race. But I mean, yeah, there was some really good battling going on. FlyingFinn obviously taking the lead off Dizzy. Seiyariu and TRL Martin were behind him at that point. JD seemed to be showing some pretty good pace. I think he got up to second place at one stage, or third potentially, before the intermediate stage came. But he managed to sift his way past Martin, and I think past Seiyariu as well. There was just some great battling, really good overtakes and good battling. I remember the TheFlyingFinn managing to go round the outside of Dizzy at turn 1, and then they continued to move throughout the whole first sector. It was just really nice to see like 4 or 5 people battling for a win. We don't get to see it much in real life Formula 1 very often. And it was really good to see some clean racing, especially in the difficult conditions. Chris, you said that everyone was potentially expecting it to dry out a lot quicker, and we only got the intermediates on lap 12. I guess when you have something in your mind about when it's going to start, when the weather's going to change, is it really quite difficult to start changing your strategy on the fly and thinking about what your strategy is going to be like when it starts drying out potentially?
Well, when you're up the front, it's definitely going to be more difficult, because when you're behind, like I was, you're definitely just doing what everyone else does. So I think it was difficult for the top 3, 4, 5 to, especially because they were such in a close proximity, to make the right call onto the intermediates. And and Dizzy Cupid and Limitless staying out for for another lap definitely didn't help, especially not for Dizzy Cupid. I think he also made a mistake on his in-lap. He dropped down to P5 all the way from P2 to P5 at the coming into the interstant. So that was not the best strategic call for him. I think that was the crucial point for TheFlyingFinn, because he, after that pit stop phase, he already had like a 3-second gap to the guys behind, and of course they started battling, and that just enabled him to pull away on these inters.
Yeah, it was 100% a crucial part of the race, really. You said that obviously Dizzy and JD leaving it a lap too late, and when it comes to wets to inters, it's always quite a difficult one to judge. I feel as if wets to inters is probably the hardest of the tyre decisions to make when it comes to changeable conditions, and just leaving it 1 lap too long affected both. Well, not it didn't affect both their races in terms of they could never recover, but it helped everyone else out. It helped Seiyariu, it helped Martin, obviously helped the TheFlyingFinn as well. As you mentioned, he managed to gallop away a little bit on the Inter's tyres whilst everyone else was starting to battle behind. Again, it was really cool to see lots of good battling going on, but obviously it all helped the TheFlyingFinn in the end. Eventually it did start drying out even more, and eventually we ended up on dries as well. I can't remember how many laps the race was in the end. Was it a 28 lap race?
29.
Around Australia? Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. Well, maths has never been my strong point. I think it ended up drying out sort of with about 7 or 8 laps to go, so it was definitely worth going onto dry tyres. Some people going for super softs, well, like 90% of people going for super softs. I seem to recall Stu made a bit of a strategic error in the Force India. I mean, I think he was battling for points in the Force India, but he came in, forgot to change or got some sort of glitch, and he ended up going back onto intermediate tyres, having to pit again, even though it was very much dry conditions. But yeah, we were talking about people coming in on different laps for different compounds, and it sort of happened again in the dry phase as well. Limitless, and this time the TheFlyingFinn actually leaving it a lap longer, I think, to come in. It didn't affect the TheFlyingFinn at all, because he had such a big gap that he was able to come in the lap later, and he did lose some time, but didn't lose too much to actually lose the lead. But it did affect JD quite negatively in the end, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Limitless even pitted 2 laps later, and he said after the race that his engineer didn't tell him to pit, so he just thought, okay, I'm just going, because the Inters didn't feel too bad, to be honest, because the drying out phase was very, very long. I think a couple of people actually pitted like 4 laps earlier, going on to the soft team. I think that was the thing what Franglish costed him quite a bit, but it was definitely drying out very, very slowly, and I think that definitely lost Limitless second position, which he was at the current time when everyone pitted behind him.
It's always so difficult as well when it's slowing out, when it's drying out so slowly. because it's impossible almost to judge. A bit of bad luck though on JD's front, I guess, when given that his engineer didn't actually tell him. I guess things didn't massively change from then on. We did see Seiyariu and Martin continue battling, but the top two were basically decided. Limitless was a bit too far back, really, to be able to start challenging for a podium. So he ended up finishing in 5th, but we did end up with TheFlyingFinn winning, his first AOR race? It was his first AOR race, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was. So
yeah, not a bad way to...
he
career, is it really?
Yeah, so he joins Noble 2999 and Jack 575 as the only drivers to have won in their debut on the F1 League, and obviously Noble won the first ever F1 League race in Season 3, so excluding that, TheFlyingFinn joins Jack 575, who won in Monaco Season 9.
That's not a bad record to have whatsoever. So TheFlyingFinn then taking the win in Australia in the changeable conditions. Dizzy, the pole man, did manage to take 2nd in the end. Potentially will rue that intermediate, that wet to intermediate stop, because maybe things would have been a little bit different if he'd been close to TheFlyingFinn. Maybe he wouldn't have been involved in battles during the Inters phase and would have been able to catch him a little bit more. Seiyariu did manage to take the final podium place in the Renault, in the banana car, by 6/10 out of Martin in the Mercedes, and then Limitless in 5th, as we mentioned, in the Haas. Raiko Gordon the first, the McLarens was in P6 from iReversal. Our good friend Wycombs was in 8th in the Force India, with Jason and Strees running out the top 10. We had 6 skills as well in the Manor. He was like 2/10 away from grabbing points, or a point, sorry, as well, which is a bit of a shame for him. Had quite a few retirements due to a lot of the incidents as well. Andre and his teammate as well, Leo Bot, both retiring, so Team Leo Bot not exactly going too well in the first race. Lucky Dog in the Haas retired, Burnout in the second, and Renault's retired, and we also lost CRL Rosberg and CRL Hamilton as well. Penalties wise, there was quite a few. Australia is a track really where it's quite easy to just accidentally start cutting corners not on a regular basis, but every now and again. It's not something that gets looked into really, penalties around a track like this, I guess, when it's on such a wide scale?
No, not really, as in, obviously we're running the strict rules in AOR, so there's no real need to look into corner cutting penalties, and they won't get removed unless you get like a ridiculous penalty. So overall, with no one getting more than 6 seconds of penalties over the whole grid, that's pretty good, to be honest, considering, as Nero mentions, the nature of this track, where it's very easy to corner cut, lots of chicanes where you can run wide and extend, or turn into early and cut to corners.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing there were no other penalties from collisions or anything during the race that have been looked at by the stewards.
Nope. No stewards inquiries for this one.
Okay, good. We love a race without a stewards inquiry. It just drags everything out, doesn't it? Anyway, so that was the Australian Grand Prix for Tier 1. We'll have in the background. I mean, we won't have the drivers' championship, because obviously it's the same as the finishing results for the first race. Let's be honest. But we can have a quick look through the team championships, I guess, because as I mentioned, there's no real need to go through the drivers' championship. At the moment, Williams are top because of that win for TheFlyingFinn. Red Bull currently sat in 2nd place on 19, and we've got Renault in 3rd, Mercedes 4th, Haas in 5th, McLaren 6th, Sauber 7th, then Force India and Ferrari. There was only one team that actually got a double point scoring finish, and that was Red Bull, and only one team that hasn't scored yet, and that's Manor. So still no team that really, and Toro Rosso actually, of course. So there's no team at the moment that seems to be grabbing the bull by the horns and really posing a threat, when it comes to the Constructors' Championship at the moment, but yeah, I'm sure that'll change eventually. We had a quick shout out as well. We'll have in the background the lower tiers as well, or the GP2 tier. I've been told to shout out AOR Bigsy. There we go, I managed to remember. AOR Bigsy, who went from 12th to 1st. Is that correct in the GP2 race?
Yeah, it is. He qualified outside of the top 10, and I believe he changed his strategy around so that he could do a one-stop, and therefore managed to out-strategize everyone who started in front of him and showed some solid pace to take the victory.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really talk about the race too much, but maybe, people in Tier 1, next time they're in Australia, they might think, oh, okay, we'll check out what strategy he went for, because clearly it works, going from 12th to 1st. from a low position on the grid to winning the race is always pretty admirable. So driver of the day going to someone who isn't even in Tier 1, being Bigsy, it was a very good result, I guess. I guess there's not really much more to talk about when it comes to the Australian Grand Prix.
No, I don't think so. I think we've reviewed that race pretty thoroughly. Pretty interesting race, a very exciting start to the season, and obviously, of course, the official highlights are back from the season. So some of you may remember in season 7 and season 8 and season 6 as well. In fact, Fizzy uploaded highlights of the race like in an official format, I guess, with all the camera views put together. So they'll be back for this season. So hopefully, the first round highlights will be up on Fizzy's channel in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty awesome. Actually. A couple of weeks.
I'm going by Fizzy's previous uploading.
Previous form?
Yeah.
And he's got a special helper.
That's true.
That is true. I mean, well, I'm looking forward to the highlights anyway, because I really love the way.
Yeah.
I mean, the Renault 2.0 highlights. Oh my god. Anyway, I'm going to stop fangirling. Yeah, so we're hoping to see that. Of course, if you want to check out POVs from any of the drivers as well, if you just want to see from a certain aspect, I know Wycoms, I know Chris, you've done your highlights / the full race, I think it was, on your channel. So a lot of people have done their POV. So if you want to check out like the whole race, I guess, then from one certain person's POV, then check that out. But obviously, if you want to see the highlights, then make sure to check out Fizzy's channel for that. Moving on though, it is Bahrain next up, the first of the night races. We all love a night race, don't we? We saw rain in Australia. I think it's probably fair to say we're probably not going to see a repeat of that weather-wise in Bahrain, isn't it, realistically?
Yeah, I highly doubt there'll be rain, to be honest,
unless Bernie Eccleston brings his sprinklers with him.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I don't think I've ever seen rain in a Bahrain race on a game, realistically. But,
I have, actually.
No way.
No.
Explain.
I think I'm not sure. I think it was a TRL League race on F1 2012. I believe I've seen some footage from Randy McScrandy, and there's definitely some inters at Bahrain. So I'm not sure what went down there. Clearly some Codemaster script going on, but yes, I've seen rain in Bahrain.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it's, I mean, okay, clearly it's possible. I highly doubt it, but I mean, there's now like a percentage of doubt in my head about it. I'm pretty sure they will get a full dry race, which will obviously mean a change up in strategies. So James and Chris, we'll start with James. What are you expecting people to do? Maybe in qualifying, you're expecting people to go for maybe a harder compound in qualifying?
Yeah, so the tyres available for Bahrain are the super soft and mediums. And the super softs really don't last long at all, so I suspect lap 6, or maybe if you really push them, lap 7, so by which point they'll be pretty dead and you'll risk getting a puncture. So I reckon some people will risk starting on the softs, but if you do start on the super softs, it will be super soft, medium soft, I believe, or maybe switching around the soft and the medium. But if you start on the softs, you can be much more aggressive and maybe try a one-stop, although I highly doubt it unless you're being very extreme with your strategy and just trying to risk something to get a good result.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see a lot of people on the mediums, I'm guessing, at some stage during the race, trying to extend some stints.
Yeah.
Especially if they start on the super softs. That's basically the only way people are going to go. What strategy are we expecting people to do if they maybe start on the soft tyres?
Possibly soft, super soft. I think that's a possible strategy. If not, then they'll have to do soft.
That's very optimistic. That's very optimistic in my opinion.
I've seen someone do that strategy, so I know it's possible.
Okay.
Fair play for that guy. I mean,
I'm not going to do
so
that.
so it seems as if for most people, for a lot of people, certainly it's going to be, which I guess is a shame. It's going to be a lot of people using all 3 compounds, which doesn't really mix it up too much, I guess, because everyone's going to be on one of those compounds at some point, even if it's not at the same time. But I guess we could see, strategies starting to merge and people on the slower tyre maybe being caught up by people on super softs and vice versa or whatever. So that's going to be pretty cool, I guess. And we'll have to see. Well, I think it'll be pretty interesting qualifying-wise. I think there'll be a few people that try softs, but I was talking about this with a few people in the PlayStation talk show. It seems quite difficult to actually get a lap together in one on soft tyres. Is that actually the case? Is it harder to get the soft tyres maybe up to temperature than it is the super softs?
Well, I haven't tried to qualify on soft, so I'll leave this one to Chris.
I don't think really that there's a temperature problem. It's just when you are a top runner. When you are a top runner, it actually can be beneficial to qualify on the softs, because you won't be too far down in the grid and you won't have to deal with too much traffic. But if you're like, I don't know, a guy that qualifies normally in 6th, 7th, 8th or something like that, and you are qualifying on softs, you are going to start outside of the top 10 anyways, and then it's basically ruined the chance of making maybe a different strategy by. And I think people from the front runners, that could be beneficial to do to qualifying on the softs, but for the guys that are battling for a top 10 result in qualifying, I think it's not really worth it, to be honest.
Yeah,
if you're going for position at least.
Yeah, because if you're struggling to get in the top 10, you're gonna want position, try position over anything. Whereas obviously, if you're a top runner, then you're probably gonna have the pace to maybe get through on the harder tyres anyway. But yeah, that's gonna provide a really good dynamic and hopefully an entertaining race. I mean, it's a track that does tend to provide quite a lot of overtaking on the game, certainly down the home straight. That's obviously, for those that don't know, there's 2 DRS straights on the Bahrain track, obviously down the home straight, and then one out of turn 10, which for me is a horror story of a corner, but we'll gloss over that for now. And that's because I'm not as skilled at the game as the people around me in this talk show. But yeah, so there's 2 DRS straights, one certainly more effective than others. Are we expecting a race with a lot of overtakes, or are we gonna maybe see a race that's maybe not so entertaining when it comes to overtakes, or what? What are we expecting?
Definitely a lot of overtakes. I mean, not only because of the nature of the track, but also because of the slipstream being very, very effective in this year's game. So I think we will see some. Definitely more battling than Australia. I think even for Australia standards, the battles were absolutely insane, to be honest. And Bahrain has provided some great battling in the past. I think that won't be an exception next week. Oh, next race, actually.
See, that's good to hear. That's good. We all love an entertaining race. We all usually love a race around Bahrain. It does usually provide a lot of overtaking. So with a larger grid, and with people so close as we saw in Australia, then I'm sure it'll be even better. Are there necessarily drivers who are going to struggle or be better here? And maybe have a good track record around Bahrain? I'm looking at James specifically because he's the stats guy, the designated stats guy, whether there's maybe people who are more likely to perform here than others.
Well, last season Dizzy Cupid won, but obviously that's to be expected. In season 10...
That's a given.
Yeah, pretty much. In season 10 on F1 2013, Martin won. I think he got out the DRS from Brochek and Limitless on that day and managed to come home with the win quite easily. Limitless won from the back of the grid in season 9 after disconnecting and qualifying. So if he can replicate that pace again, he will probably be closer to the top than he was in Australia. I definitely expect at least a podium from Limitless this week, as he also won in season 8.
Yeah, well, I think we're definitely expecting more than a top 5. I mean, a top 5 finish is solid, but I'm sure JD himself will be looking forward to battling for a win and potentially grabbing a win around a track like you mentioned, where he's come from the back to actually win the whole race, which is pretty admirable itself. And to be honest with you, I'm just looking forward to seeing these guys battling again. Like the racing that we had in the top 5 and all the way down the order, but the racing that we had for the win in Australia was brilliant to watch and brilliant to see, because a lot of, in recent times across all platforms really, we've had certain seasons where there's only been 2 people battling for a championship, or in last season's case, 1 person battling for the championship, being Dizzy. So I just feel as if it's really refreshing to see, like 4 or 5 guys battling for a win in any race. I mean, I feel like we've previewed Bahrain pretty well. If there's anything you guys want to add, though, then make sure to let me know now.
No, I think we've talked about a wide range of stuff once again, so strategy and previous winners. So I reckon it'll be a good race, and I think maybe we should just wrap it up with everyone's predictions on who's going to win.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to pass the buck straight over to Chris and ask him for his opinion on who he reckons is going to win.
I think it's going to be someone who is not too bad on his tires, and I think Seiyariu will do a very good job of that, combined with his incredible pace.
Okay. I can't remember who I predicted last week. I mean, it doesn't even matter. I think I predicted Seiyariu last week, actually. But nevertheless, I'm going to go, as my chair squeaks for no apparent reason whatsoever, I'm going to go for Limitless to win. Not because this video is on his channel. That's definitely not the reason why that's... that's genuinely, that's not the reason. But yeah, I reckon pace that he's shown in previous years around the track, I'm sure will suit him, and I'm sure he'll be determined to grab a win, or at least a podium, certainly, after coming 5th in Australia. James, what are you reckoning for the results around Bahrain?
I'm going to agree with Chris, actually. I'm going to say that Seiyariu is going to take the win, so if he's watching this, no pressure, and I'm sure we'll see a fantastic race on Sunday.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely be looking forward to seeing that. Unfortunately, there is no live stream for the Australian Grand Prix, but as we mentioned, the Bahrain Grand Prix, I gather there isn't one.
No, I think some drivers will be streaming there. I think last week Jason was streaming on his Twitch channel. I can't remember what the link is, but maybe Pepper can find that, or Niran, you can find that.
Twitch.tv/Jason97F1.
Right, there we go. So I suspect he'll be streaming again this week. So if you want to watch the race from Jason's POV, go there. So you can see that. But no, there's no spectator cam stream. But obviously, as mentioned, Fizzy's back with the highlights of the season.
Okay, cool. Well, so if you want to watch the race this weekend, then make sure to check out Jason. He'll be streaming it. But if you do want to see the official highlights, then of course check out Fizzy, as we mentioned. Check out Fizzy in the description, and of course everyone else that is involved in the talk show. We've got James and Chris here. We've got JD. We've got Pepper. Everyone on the PS4 side, and of course Ryan on the PC side, and Justin, Shane, Dan, flipping everybody. Subscribe to everyone in the description below, and check out their channels. And all that good jazz. Thank you once again for the support on the talk show so far, from whatever channel you've come from or whatever channel you're watching it on. We really appreciate the support that you guys have been giving it, and the fact that you're really supporting the project is just absolutely awesome. And again, we hope you enjoy this AOR season. It looks as if it's going to be shaping up to be an absolutely awesome one. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the likes button. Subscribe if you're new around here, and as I mentioned, subscribe to everyone in the description. It's been a pleasure from myself. It's been a pleasure, I'm sure, from James and Chris, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to add that on the end as well.